But so like again, like I was always like the ghost and UFO kid. You know, when I was a kid, I always talked about ghosts and UFOs. People always thought I was nuts. And when Signs came out, a lot of people, you know, came up to me and they're like, they're making an alien movie. You know, like okay, have fun. Like, did you ever see a crop circle? Like, no, I haven't seen a crop circle.
Yeah, I'm like 14.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But
are you older than me?
I'm 35 and next week.
Okay, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
You old man. I'm 34. Anyways, continue.
God.
Nick's like 20, so.
So it was a like when we were in Florida, we got to see a UFO, you know, and it was a
we got to see one.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? It was actually on UFO, like they call it UFO Highway. We were on our way to Disney World, and that was honestly. So as like I've seen a ghost before, right? And I've seen a UFO before, and
you've also seen pirates because you've been to Disney World, right?
It's true, undead pirates in particular. But I actually like. That wasn't that time. I think I threw up in the van because I was so terrified of what I was seeing. Yeah, I was a little kid. You know, I was young. My brothers were freaking out, and you know, what's really funny about that is my dad was driving the van, and
who left these lights on?
We were, yeah, right. who left the lights on 60 stories in the sky? He wasn't even looking at it, and it wasn't until like 6 or 7 years ago. Like the house we grew up, my dad never had one like, you know, ghostly experience, and during that experience, he never looked at the, you know, thing in the sky. Well, at least he told us he didn't. But you know, about like 5 or 6 years ago, we're like, Dad, come on, you were there that night. Did you not see that in the sky? And he finally opened up about it. He's like, yeah, I saw it. He was like, I couldn't not see it. It was right there, like, the sky on the highway. We were like stuck in traffic on the highway. And everyone, there was one guy on the opposite side of the highway. He was standing outside of his van because that side was blocked up too. He was standing outside of his van, just staring at it in the middle, like on the highway, just staring up at the sky. At this thing.
Then all of a sudden, he just started floating away.
Oh,
it was
dude,
so weird.
I would have lost for how scared I was. I would have lost my mind. I would have lost my mind. But he was like, yeah, I saw. He's like, I had all you kids in the car, and he's like, what am I supposed to do? We're stuck in traffic. He's like, I was terrified.
Like freak out in front of everybody.
Yeah, exactly. He was and I'm like, oh my god, that makes complete sense. It's what I would try to do, right?
Your dad just like,
yeah,
and he gets out, runs away,
runs out of the car.
But instead, like the appropriate father, he was like, "Shut up, there's nothing."
Yeah, exactly, there's nothing. Yeah, because he was just like, "Oh, if we're all, you know, going it's all destroyed, we're all destroyed." But yeah, that was crazy.
You know,
so like it was really just the happening starting.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, dude, I hate that.
I always have
Why
to
do
bring
you
up
do
the
that?
happening. It's your favorite movie, Mike.
Oh God. I have a very faint memory of my mom telling me a story about her seeing a UFO while she was out driving when we lived in Florida too, actually.
Ironic, right?
We lived...
Florida's just no good, man.
I know, right? We lived over on the west coast of Florida, having stints in like Clearwater, Largo, and Newport Richey, which are all kind of like 45 minutes south of Tampa Bay. Now, I don't recall how old I was, but we moved up here up here to Ohio when I was 10. So I was pretty young. So the fact that my mom was just like telling me this is kind of like shocking to me right now as I'm telling you guys this story. But since I was so young, the details are pretty fuzzy. But I remember her saying like she thought she had saw something, and then like the like lights in her car or whatever kind of like started to go out or whatever, and then it flew away, and then her lights came back on, and then like she came home or whatever. But I might be going over to my parents this weekend for like dinner or something, and I'll ask her if I'm just like thinking
She's like, I was lying to you. I just
imagining
wanted to
this
scare
story.
you.
Yeah.
I was
She's
kidding.
like, I actually was really mad at you that day and wanted you to have horrific nightmares.
Right, yeah. So one day you can start a podcast and talk about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's not an unusual story, though. There's been a lot of instances where UFO, like a close encounter, I guess, with the UFO, they would lose power
yeah.
to their vehicles, and not only in cars, but even some planes during World War II when flying, and some of the instances that they had with that.
Yeah. All this is terrifying because I'm just, now that I have a camera, like I'm just imagining something like walking down my steps right now.
The
Or
science.
yeah,
Science
the
of it.
other part of science, by the way, that I wanted to talk about is when they're in the basement and the boys
Oh,
behind
my God.
the coal grate or whatever, and you just see the hand come out like this and grab him, and I'm just imagining a hand. Wow, I can't use my hand. Like just poking around this wall right here and just going like this on the wall, and I would just die.
I picture him like walking out like from the bush, but from left to right, and just staring at the camera, and then hitting
Yeah,
the
he's like-
wall and falling down. Doing like the Michael Jackson Thriller thing, like just
Yeah.
it's what it looks like he's doing with the way his arms are. Like,
Yeah, it's almost like
he's.
he's doing the infamous Sasquatch walk.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, you're right. I was picturing it the different way, but you're right. That's exactly what
Yeah.
he does. Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, while we're on the topic of aliens, two things I want to say. But first, I'm gonna say with one of the movies that I've briefly talked about this on a couple episodes, but the movie that gave me the most vivid nightmare, I think it was only one, but it was the most vivid nightmare I've ever had in my life, was Fire in the Sky, I believe is what it's called. And for some reason, again, I saw bits and pieces of this movie when I lived in Florida. So I was under 10 years old. Probably should not have been watching this movie. Somehow I managed to catch parts of it and had the most absolutely terrifying, like realistic dream. Maybe I got abducted by aliens. I don't know. And it wasn't a dream, and it was me being abducted, but it was
Cartman style.
so scary. Like
I'm looking for your mom. Where is she?
I was at like a sleepover at a friend's house in the neighborhood, and like my parents had to come get me at like 2 a.m. because I was like inconsolable. Like I was freaking out. But that movie for sure as a kid, and I've wanted to go back and rewatch it, like the full movie now as an adult, but I haven't yet. But yeah, for me, that's definitely a pick of mine. There's just something about aliens that is unsettling. And of all the things, for me, this was my other point I want to talk about is like, I don't know how far down this rabbit hole we, want to go, but like, of all of
whiskey left, but I'm ready.
of all of the different things that could be true, right? I find aliens or intelligent life or anything of that sort existing the hardest one to dismiss. Like I don't know if I would call myself a believer, but I know that I wouldn't call myself an unbeliever, if that makes sense.
With UFOs or?
Yeah, with like alien life or like, I mean, obviously, well, you just look at UFOs. I mean, it just stands for unidentified flying objects. So it could be anything.
Yeah, it's very, very big.
So like, yeah, the Nazis came back from.
Like, yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah. He's back there giving me the thumbs up. He's like, keep it going. Yeah, really, it's just the Nazis came out of the hollow earth, and they're flying around there. Anyways, but yeah, it's just that's the hardest for me to dismiss flippantly. I just think that the universe is so large, and it's kind of arrogant to think that we would be the only thing in this entire universe that is a living form. I don't know, but we don't have to like really get into it, but unless you have something to say about it, Jordan, because I'm sure you do.
to go along with it, it's just from the discoverable planets of like what humans have seen. Earth is obviously super unique. That doesn't mean there's other Earths that have been discovered, but the amount of life that's here and the amount of ecosystems that we have, it has to be kind of like a fun destination for another life form to stop by and just check out on its way wherever it might be going. Water is obviously a little bit rare, and the one thing that all life has on Earth in common is we're all carbon life forms, and every life form is curious on Earth. So it makes you wonder if aliens are also carbon life forms. Maybe they're curious too, and they just check other things out the same way we would. Yeah. Abductions aren't much like us going into the wilderness and tranquilizing an animal and tagging it and sending it back into the wilderness. It's
all about how you tag it, though.
Yeah, we usually go for the ear and not the anus, but hey, to each their own.
We also haven't colonized other planets, so maybe we'll get to that.
True.
Maybe that's the key.
And I have been watching a lot of Expanse, so colonizing of Mars is very much an interest of mine.
It's on the list to do, the to-do list.
In that movie, did they actually did they warm the atmosphere and actually terraform it, or are they just living there under what it's actually
It's a
going?
TV show. Get it right. No, I'm just kidding. They're in the process of creating an environment on Mars. Or on Mars. On Mars. It's a great show. I've enjoyed it a lot, actually. Thanks for recommending it, Nick. But we have a comment here from Biosiv, and he says, Jordan, I've seen ghosts, but I've never seen a UFO before, but I believe I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, so real quick, one more thing on the story of the UFOs. So there's two situations. One was that Florida incident, and one was actually in Avondale in Canton, Ohio. We picked up my brothers from literally a haunted house in October. I was riding with my mom. We picked them up, and we were leaving, and I remember there was a part of the sky that looked like it was just almost like there's a campfire in the sky. It was static, so it wasn't flickering flames or anything. It was just a big, bright, glowing, almost just. It wasn't a perfect circle or anything like that. And I remember I was a little kid. I'm like, hey mom, look, a shooting star, which it wasn't even freaking moving. It's the dumbest thing. I'd be like, shut up, moron. The kid said that to me, but my brother Jamie was he actually was excited. He's like, no, that's a UFO, because we didn't know what the F it was. And by the time we got back to the Avondale area, this is close to North Canton, so about 10 minutes later, above Avondale Elementary, there was a giant sideways V, just basically a greater than symbol, I guess you could say. And there was about 3 or 4 other smaller ones around it. And they were just if you took a black sheet and you put a bright light behind it and carved these symbols into it and the light shined through perfectly, that's exactly how it looked. And those were also static in the sky. And I mean, UFO, I don't know, it could have been some kind of weird anomaly, but that was, I don't know what the hell it was, but that was, it was huge in the sky. We're not talking do you see that? We're what the hell is that? It was giant. It was, the smaller V's looked like a close plane, as far as just the size, and the giant V just, I don't even know. I've never seen anything that big in the sky before. I don't know how to explain it. You what?
Did you take a picture?
No, that was I was probably in 3rd grade.
Oh,
but so here's the funny thing. Going back to the UFO situation, we're on a vacation, right? We literally had a video recorder in the van with us. Not one person thought to pick it up.
Yeah.
Not one person.
Well, it's that is always the argument. Why haven't we seen I'm just going to use Bigfoot as an example. I don't believe in Bigfoot necessarily, but it's just the first thing that came to mind. Why haven't we seen evidence of Bigfoot or giants, right? Yeah, giants. We'll use giants. But I would assume if you in your situation, Jordan, came across a giant, your first thought wouldn't be oh, I better get my camera out. You're probably oh my God, I might die. There's a freaking giant in front of me.
No, you're exactly
right. Trying not
to
you're trying to keep your brain from oozing out your ears because you're
terrified. Mind blown. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I was obviously again really, really young at that in the Florida situation, but no one in my brothers were, I think, just becoming teenagers or something like that. No one thought of it. Thinking back, we probably didn't even know how to run it. My dad was probably the only person who knew how to actually run the.
And there's nothing there.
You what?
And there's
there was
nothing there
nothing
according to your dad.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But now he admits it, obviously, but he sure as hell wasn't.
He's like,
about,
I swear, there's nothing there, guys.
yeah.
And he's like,
just look away.
looking up at the camera. Hey, thanks for watching this clip of the Showboys podcast. If you like what you heard, please go check out the full episode on our YouTube channel or anywhere you find your podcast content. Please remember to hit that subscribe button, join the Showboys Discord, and if you want to support the podcast and what we do, sign up to become a patron today at patreon.com/showboyspodcast.